Hello. Hello, it's Sheree here from spicefitness.com, and I just want to come with you today to talk about diabetes. So diabetes, specifically diabetes 2. So today is World Diabetes Day, and so that's why I thought as a nurse and a fitness trainer I would actually have a bit of a talk to you. It won't take long, maybe about 10 minutes or 15 minutes, to just have a chat about the ways that we can reverse type 2 diabetes. And so diabetes is characterized by high levels of sugar in the bloodstream. There's type 1 diabetes, which you're born with, and or some people actually don't get discovered till they're a little bit older, but it involves the pancreas not producing enough insulin, so the blood sugars are high and uncontrolled. Those people will generally go on to insulin for that. Type 2 diabetic is a totally different ball game. So type 2 diabetes is something that we will develop in life, and it's just where the body has trouble using the insulin that you do produce. So you may produce lots of insulin or a small amount of insulin, but it's not being used by the body in the right way because the cells are resistant to actually being able to use that insulin. So the insulin's there, it's just not being used and utilized effectively. So therefore, the glucose that's in the bloodstream is not being able to be transported into the cells effectively, so the sugar remains high in the blood, and that can lead to a whole lot of different problems. So people with type 2 diabetes have at least twice the risk of premature death as those without. People with type 2 diabetes, there's often quite a few other things going on as well, and it can lead to cardiovascular disease. It can lead to a whole lot of different things that can cause you to have a really poor quality of life and eventually to die a lot earlier. So really, I just want to focus in today on type 2 diabetes because I see it all the time as a nurse. I reckon every second to third patient that I look after on our cardiovascular ward is, cardiology ward, well, it's cardiovascular as well, but cardiology ward has type 2 diabetes. So it's often as a result of their lifestyle choices that they've ended up there with heart problems. So type 2 diabetes is one of those things that is preventable and actually treatable. You can take yourself away from type 2 diabetes by simply making some lifestyle changes. And those lifestyle changes involves working your body, getting it to move and exercise and being strong. And the other thing is with the diet that we eat as well. So those two things are quite simple. For some people though, for people that have gotten to that place where they are quite uncontrolled type 2 diabetic, and there are things that have started to happen, maybe they've had a toe amputated or a leg amputated, you can get quite depressed. And of course we know that when there's depression, that's really hard to get on top of things. So I guess I'm talking to those people today that kind of want to even make lifestyle changes before you even get to pre-diabetes or diabetes. You don't want to get to that point if you can help it. I've had lots of clients that have started to get strong, get leaner, and have been able to come off or halve their diabetes medication, then come off it entirely. And actually goes with quite a few other things with blood pressure medication as well. So it's just making some simple lifestyle choices. So I really want to just talk about some of the complications, and that's why diabetes can be an awful thing to contract. And if you can, why not get rid of it if you know that some things are easy to do? So we'll just talk about some of the complications. Diabetic retinopathy leading to blindness. Not good. Obesity, kidney disease, problems with the intestines functioning properly, nervous system disorders, amputations, whether that's just one toe or it leads to a leg, because of the poor blood supply to the limbs, stroke, cardiovascular disease, and part of that is also high blood pressure. And so there's a lot of things that can go on, and as I said before, leads to early death as well if not under good control. So some of the things with diet are to look at your diet. I think it's as simple as, and I keep saying this and I will keep saying this, it's not a particular diet. There's no particular diet that will take you to where you need to be. But if you can start to look at having things in its natural state as possible. So adding more plant-based food to your meat. So say if you're a meat and 3 veggie sort of person every night, maybe having a look at having that same meat, but having a mound of spinach leaves and go with some avocado on the side, maybe some tomatoes, sort of a Mediterranean diet. I love having lots of raw foods. It just seems to really sit well with my body and has allowed me to stay lean as well. And so I don't think you can beat just doing some tweaks. You don't have to change big things. If you still like your meat and three veggies, cut down on the portions. Cut down to a smaller amount of meat and your 3 veggies, and add some greens on the side, some raw greens of some kind. So minimize your refined carbs. So those refined carbs are things like chips and bickies and white breads and pastas and stuff like that. Have some, that's fine, but cut down. The whole thing about changing our diet and changing our lives and changing how we do things is not trying to take out a whole food group all at once, but it's just trying to reduce a little bit and adding a bit. So reduce a bit of this, not good stuff or not so great for your body, and adding a bit of the good stuff. And before you know it, you'll be changing that around even more. So it's not about trying to make all the changes all at once. It's about making small changes one at a time. So eat foods containing omega-3 fats. So that includes fish oil supplements. And so I'll be do I talk a bit more about diet? No, I haven't gone on to a lot about diet, but foods that contain omega-3 fats. So all those good fats, your avocados and things like that, but also fish. If you can eat fish every week, great. If you don't, then at least your fish oil supplements. Eating 1 to 2 servings of vegetables with every meal, that's really important. So rather than having your steak and chips, try and replace some of those chips with some vegetables, and I would say some raw plant food. Include fibre every day, at least 25 grams of fibre. If you don't get in enough fibre, then things like the powdered Metamucil, there's some of those powdered supplements that are great. Just make sure you drink enough of that, because if you don't with some of these things that are high fibre, you take it in a powder form, then it can become like concrete in your bowel, and you don't want it to do that. So make sure you drink enough of that as well. You should eat lean protein at most meals, so 20 to 30 grams for a woman, and that's a palm size, so your palm, if you take that amount of protein. And there's so many things that contain protein, but that is your meats, your lean red meats, I love my protein in my Greek yogurt and things like that. So making sure that we have enough of that. And for men, you want 2 palm size things of protein with most of your main meals. And then to talk about how we move our bodies. So to exercise at least 3 to 5 hours per week, and with at least 2 to 3 of those being strength training. So if you made 2 or 3 of these sessions a week with strength training, and the other 2 to 3 times you go out maybe for a brisk walk, what you want to be doing is making your body work a bit harder each time. So if you're somebody that can barely get up off the couch right now, or you can barely move, do you know your first move may be to every day just go down to your mailbox and back? That could be, and you start to do that, you start to feel better and better and better. And within 3 or 4 weeks, and I hear these stories all the time, within 3 or 4 weeks, you're not just going to your mailbox, but you're going to the next 3 houses down the road. And then before you know it, within a month, you're going down to the Oval down the road and back, and you're feeling great. And you add strength training to that, I will tell you, it's amazing. I did a program called Lift for Life. This program was aimed specifically at people with diabetes. So it's showing how when you strength train, the muscle is very active. So unlike fat is very sedentary, it doesn't do much for you, but muscle is active. And so if you build up some muscle, it is amazing how it becomes your metabolism burner, but it becomes a efficient pumping mechanism. And so what it does is you build up some muscle, it gets rid of those sugars in your bloodstream and pumps them out and into the muscles where they can be used and out of your bloodstream. So it is a great thing. I wouldn't just say go for walks. I would be be saying doing strength training 2 to 3 times a week at least, and when you first start out, even 3 or 4 times a week. But you can cut it down for maintenance at 2 times per week. So strength training is an amazing thing for people with diabetes. And when you think that Fitness Australia ran this course, a 2 full-day course for people like me that were fitness instructors, to teach us all about what strength training does for diabetes. It's quite good. So if you want to learn more, I'm sure that they've still got some of their results up there, but Lift for Life was the program. Have a look at some of the results that came out of that. They had great results for people with diabetes. So some of the signs and symptoms that you might have: high blood sugar. And so if we do the finger prick on the machine, a normal fasting blood sugar is kind of 4 to 5.4. You don't want to go below 4. Some of you will start to feel a bit hypo, like a bit dizzy. And there's a few things I'll talk about in a moment. But you want 4 to 5.4 on a finger prick machine. Make sure you don't have any sugar on your finger, because when you finger prick, that can give you a false reading. And when you're fasting, it can be up to 7.0. So it's 4 to 5.4 when you're fasting, and it can go up to 7.8 or so about 2 hours after a meal. I've been on night shift before as a nurse. I've eaten a whole pile of sweet stuff, as you do on night shift, just to keep you going. I think I'd eaten a whole pile of chocolate and sweets, and my blood sugar was up to about 5.96, could have even been 6.5. I was like, but then I thought, I don't have to worry about that, because it's not normally, it doesn't sit up that high. But that's starting to get up a little bit high for what you'd want for the average. So if you've got high blood sugar levels, and you could sometimes tell, and people who have diabetes tend to know when they're low or high. They often, if they're really in tune with their body, they'll know. So if you've got high blood sugar, it could be excessive hunger or thirst, excessive times of going to the toilet to wee. You could have weight loss, weakness, urinary ketones, and you can also probably smell ketones on someone's breath, blurred vision or cramps, and low blood sugar. And this is not inclusive of everything. You might feel something very different. But for most people, low blood sugar could be feeling shaky, confusion, hunger, weakness, irritability, headache, tingling, nausea, or double vision. I was at work just the other night. I still do some shifts here and there, and I was at work the other night on a night shift, and I had this overwhelming feeling of nausea. I was fine one minute. I hadn't eaten. I was putting it off my food. I know on night shift I've got to eat to keep going, but I hadn't eaten for quite a few hours, and I just got this overwhelming feeling of just feeling I wanted to just throw up. And I didn't know if I could get to the fridge to get my food out. It was that bad. I felt really weak. I was trembling. I felt totally nauseous. Got my food out, got it into my mouth, and within about 5, because it was a lot of Greek yogurt, and I had some granola in there and some blueberries. So within moments I was feeling good again. But I guarantee if I'd taken my finger prick right then, I probably would have been lower than what I normally am. So yeah, so you get to know your body. Just get to know your body. And if you have any concerns that you could be pre-diabetic, or that you're going to the toilet a lot and you want to explore that further, please make an appointment and go see your GP. So I talked about strength training before, but why strength train? Well, it does so much. It's not just for people with diabetes, it's for people with heart problems. It's for the average Joe Blog out there that just wants to have good quality of life throughout your life till the end of your days. You cannot beat 2 to 3 times a week strength training. I've had a few people come through my door this last week in their sort of mid-50s, some people in their early 50s, who can't lift something that they used to be able to lift. And that is a great sign to me. Well, it's not good, but it's a great sign to me that they need to be starting strength training, because within 3 to 4 weeks that will change. So the recommendations for most medical conditions is that you should strength train at least twice a week. And I know that the Heart Health Foundation, the Cardiovascular sort of Foundation, have just changed their guidelines from walking most days of the week to doing strength training at least twice a week. So you'll find that's becoming more and more and more. We're learning so much about the body now. It's not just about walking, and it's not just about aerobic exercise. It's about getting that body strong as well. So yeah, so I probably don't need to go too much more into that, but just talking about when you do build up some lean muscle mass and you get stronger. Muscle is active. It's so active. And I remember in my program when I did the Lift for Life program, they did some training of one half of the body. So one half the body did strength training, one half the body didn't. And they did this over a period of weeks. So they're all about the science, the data behind why we do strength training. And it was so cool to see because they showed us pictures of ultrasounds and things. And the half that had done the strength training was firing and reds everywhere. So it was pumping blood through, so pumping those sugars out of the bloodstream. And the other half that didn't do strength training was more blues, just blues. So the blood was flowing through, but not this alive, vibrant side that the one that did the strength training did. And don't forget, that also keeps going. It keeps pumping through for many, many hours, 12 hours or so, even while you're asleep after you've done a strength training session, as compared to I've only done a cardio session. I may have walked on the treadmill for half an hour. That will cause things to be up there for a bit, not to the degree that the strength training does, but it will cause your blood to pump around a bit more for an hour or two, maybe up to 3 hours. But for strength training, it will keep the blood, the whole metabolism going for hours and hours. So it's quite good. And remembering that the amount of lean muscle mass in our body starts to decline from our mid-30s. So then we keep going downhill from there. And over the age of 60, it just gets worse. So cardiovascular exercise, as I said, will also burn the calories and improve health, but strength training is really crucial to increasing your metabolism for the long haul. And that's great news for you too. If you're someone with diabetes and you need to lose weight, then it's great because it boosts up that metabolism. So it means that what you eat is burned off so much quicker. So it's actually quite extraordinary how simple it is, but how many people don't do it. Beyond diabetes, so why wouldn't you strength train? Well, there's increased bone density, increased stability of hormones, reduced risk of falls. It's your fat burner, it's support for your joints. And don't forget, quite a few people who have diabetes too are overweight. So you want those joints so you can do more stuff. If you've got support around your joints, you can get out there and do those walks and you can do your strength training. And so the benefits are endless. So I would love to say to you, get out there and just do it. There are so many times that I look at people lying in a bed in hospital and maybe they've just had a leg amputated, or they've got really bad circulation down to the toes, so they're starting to get gangrene of the toes, or they've got ulcers that are right down their leg and into their foot. All this is signs of bad circulation. Why would you want to be there? Why would you want to be in a hospital bed, lying there for days on end, getting wounds treated because your blood circulation is so bad, because of your type 2 diabetes, when you can be doing stuff to actually reverse type 2 diabetes? I was so impressed with the whole system. Normally as a nurse, you expect people to go into a tablet. That's what they do. They either do surgery on you if you've got pain, or they pop a tablet. And I'm not saying that's bad. Sometimes you need that. But I was very impressed the other day. They took a young man who was in his mid-30s, had come over from another part of Australia and was touring around here, came off his bike, and he was in hospital where they coincidentally found out that his blood sugars were high. And so I was ecstatic when I read the notes that said they're going to try lifestyle changes before they put him onto any tablets for his diabetes, which I was ecstatic about, because we should all be trying that first. So there's a lot of stuff that he can be doing that will mean that he'll never have to live with all these side effects from diabetes if he gets his diet and physical fitness right. And I get excited by that. I think it's a wonderful thing. And as a nurse, I guess I used to kind of get the system. Actually, I could never get the system how we turn to tablets first. But if we're turning to that way more first, and we can see people changing their lifestyle and having to live with the awful, awful side effects of diabetes, then why not? So this is Diabetes Day, International Diabetes Day. So I hope that someone out there may have gleaned something from this, and even if you need to go tested, get tested by your doctor. It's a very hidden thing. You often don't know you have it, and sometimes if you've had it for years and years and have lived with this, it can have already done a whole pile of damage before you get to that place where you know you've been diagnosed and can get those blood sugars under control. So if you haven't already had a test, I reckon every time you go to your doctor, don't just get your blood pressure done, but get a finger prick as well. Just want to keep an eye on it. Yeah, and I hope you've learned something from it. Okay, I'll see you next time. This is Sheree from spicefitness.com.